Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video I wanted to bring to you a review, and it's going to be on this foundation right here. It is the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte. It has claimed to be a 24-hour foundation. I have tried it and I got this product I want to say about a month ago. My last review was a couple of months ago, but then I wanted to try this one out and I wanted to go over the claims and just give you a demo and just show you how it applies on the skin and what kind of coverage it's given me. It claims it is a demi-matte finish. Now I go for more matte finishes mostly because I do have oil to combination skin. Some areas of my face are dry and mostly the T-zone area is where I get the most oily. I'm coming on here today with no makeup at all. And yeah, I'm coming on here today with no makeup at all, and as you can see I do have a few imperfections here and there, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how this covers. So this foundation claims to be 24 hours of coverage. Now to be honest, I have not worn the foundation that long. I do tend to work a 12, sometimes 16-hour days. When I come home at night, I do not sleep in my foundation. I don't wear it up to 24 hours. I never have worn a foundation for up to 24 hours, so I do wash my face every single night, so I can't really fulfill that claim to see if it's true to wear it for 24 hours. I do want to say though that when I apply this foundation on my face, it is super matte. This foundation claims to be demi-matte, but for me, when I put it on my face, it looks very matte, but then it turns into a demi-matte later on throughout the day. Probably because my skin is super oily, so my natural oils in my face tend to break through that foundation, so it's not super matte throughout the day. And it also says it has medium coverage. I do agree with that. The coverage for this foundation it gives, it's very high coverage for me, and it covers up my imperfections really well. I do like the foundation for its coverage. It is medium coverage, but sometimes I feel like it does do a complete to high coverage, or it says low, medium, high, and I'm thinking, okay, well, high is usually how it feels to me. Like, I feel like the coverage on my face with this foundation is high coverage, even though it states it's medium coverage. The next claim it makes is its texture. The texture on here says it's air light. I somewhat agree with that. I do feel like this foundation is light on the skin, but of course you still can feel you have foundation. It all depends on how much you tend to apply. If you apply more than one layer, of course you're going to feel like you have a heavy foundation on your face. Of course you're going to feel. I can't talk. I've been gone for so long that I can't talk. I do feel like that this foundation is light when applied only maybe one to two layers. If you apply, of course, more than 2 layers of this foundation, it's going to feel like you have a heavy coverage or heavy cakey feeling on your face. I do tend to apply maybe 1 to 1.5 of layers of coverage because I do have more imperfections that I need to cover. Most importantly, this foundation is meant for oil control, being that I'm a super oily person in the T-zone area because my face is very different. It's oily, but it's very oily. A lot of my foundations that I've tried, my oiliness that I have on my face always tends to break through within a couple of hours. I don't have that issue with this primer. Wait, what? I don't have that issue with this foundation. I'll apply this foundation in the morning before I go to work. Depending on the primer that I place underneath this, it will last a few hours more without getting oily in the T-zone. Now, it depends on the primer that you use. I like to use the Benefit Professional just because it's not those kind of primers that are that super oily, greasy feeling. I do have some of those primers that have that extra oiliness. I can't explain it. It's like I do have those primers in my drawer that have that extra, I want to say the greasy silicone feel. And I tried those primers with this foundation. My oil tends to break in sooner. Since the Professional by Benefit, it is translucent. It's supposed to be made where it's oil-free, lightweight, and it's not greasy. You have to have a good primer. And I feel like this has been the best primer that's helped me out. I have used this and I I wanted to like this, but this will be talked about in a separate video. I'm going to go ahead and talk about these shades. Now, when I went to buy this foundation, it was kind of hard to find my shade. Usually I can find my shade right off the bat, but I was having trouble choosing between Golden Beige 104 or this one, which is 105 Natural Beige. I feel like I should have gone for the Golden Beige 104 just because it's a little more yellow tone than this one. I think this one is a little more pinky tone, and I feel like I have more yellow tones, but I try to make this work. I know that sometimes when I apply this foundation, to me, it doesn't really fully convince me that it's the correct shade for me. But after I apply it, I do tend to, like, you know, bronze up the face a little bit, give it a little more color so that it'll go back to, you know, blending in just a little bit well so that the color shade, the shade of my skin tone, matches the rest of my body. I do have natural tanned skin. I feel like when I get a shade closest to the shade that I think it's good for me, I can always play with it. I can always warm it up if I need to, tone it down, light it up, darken it up, however it is the case, to try to match the shade as well as I can. This foundation does come in 12 shades. I've only tried this one. I am thinking about purchasing the 104 Golden Beige just to see that if that one would work better for me. But the only problem with this is that to find your shade range, you really have to look at the colors on here, or the packaging to this foundation is a squeezy tube, and because it's, you know, this packaging here, it's plastic. The little area where you can find your shade, sometimes it can be a little tricky that you can't really see it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I apply this foundation. You can apply this foundation in numerous ways. I like to use either a kabuki brush, a buffing foundation brush, like the Sigma F80, or my current favorite right now is this brush, and it's by Luxie Beauty. It is the Luxie 530 flat top kabuki brush. That's how I've been applying my foundation lately. You can use it with this beauty blender. That's how I like to use it too if I don't use my brushes. But the beauty blender tends to shear out the coverage of your foundation. What I like to do when I'm applying this foundation to my face, I do like to pat it into my skin. I don't like to rub it because I found that when you do rub it, it tends to cling to dry patches on your skin. One of the things that I don't like about this foundation, that if you do tend to drag the foundation onto your skin, if you do have dry skin, it does tend to cling to those dry patches and it won't smooth onto the skin. So that's why the technique I like to use is to pat it onto my skin, not rub it. Lately I've been seeing reviews everywhere and YouTube videos. A lot of people have been mixing this foundation with another foundation, and I tried doing that, and I tried to apply this foundation only in the area where I get the most oiliness, and then I went in with the Maybelline Fit Me Poreless foundation for the rest of my face, and I blended it in very well just to make sure that there's no line or anything on where the foundation separates, and it was actually pretty good. Usually how I apply this foundation. I like to just concentrate this foundation in the oily areas of my face, which is my forehead, my nose, my cheek area, and my chin. And I can see now in the light, and you probably can tell on camera, that this shade is just a little bit darker for me, or a little bit too dark for me. So what I like to do is when I apply this foundation, I'll apply a lighter powder on top just to blend it and make it look a little bit lighter so that it'll blend in with my neck a little bit more. But when I put it up against the rest of my body, like my arms and stuff, it does tend to match a little bit more. So it's funny because I have to make sure that my foundation is blended down my neck so that it doesn't look so different between my face and my neck. So it may look a little weird, but I try to make it work so that it doesn't look so crazy. That is it for this review. I do want to mention though that I noticed that when I always apply this foundation, it doesn't seem like you need to set it with a powder. I always do set it with a powder just because I do get a little bit oily throughout the day. I do have a backup powder, which I don't know where I put it. I think it's in my purse, but it is the powder that it can be conjoined with this foundation, and I do like that powder, but I don't like it alone. It's good for a touch-up powder throughout the day, and it works well with this foundation. That I do use it throughout the day when I do get oily. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you guys find this helpful. If you did like the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And until next time, I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye!